Hi, Greg Clarke from the Centre for Public Christianity. Well, every school kid knows that a good way of putting your debate opponent on the spot is to say, oh yeah, if that's what you think, well prove it. No, you prove it. And the discussion goes nowhere. Well, there's a bit of a battle going on like that about proof at the moment between atheists and religious believers. Who has to prove themselves? Does the religious person have to provide evidence and reasons for believing there is a God? Or is it up to the atheist to demonstrate somehow that it makes no sense and that there are no reasons or insufficient reasons for believing in the existence of God? Well, there's a certain silliness to this whole debate. I mean, of course, it is best if both sides make some effort to put their case. And at CPX, we're very keen advocates of people stating their position, arguing for it, seeking to persuade others of its truth and its beauty and its goodness. But there is a significant issue at stake here because the new atheists appear to be suggesting that we should treat atheism or even agnosticism as the default position. They're suggesting we should start with the assumption that there's no God. And if someone wants to claim otherwise, well, the running's up to them. This seems to me far too hasty in light of at least the following ideas. Firstly, most people in most cultures at most times in history, including today, have believed and do believe in some kind of divine being's existence. That belief ought to count for something in this discussion. It ought to have some value in our discussion of proof. Now, for a complex discussion of the value of religious experience for belief assertion, you might like to check out the writings of William Alston. You can see the CPX website for more details on that. But it ought to count for something that most people in most cultures at most times in history have believed there is a God. There are plenty of valid arguments for God's existence. In fact, in my view, far more convincing arguments for God's existence than against it. The beauty of the world, the fact that the universe had a beginning, the importance of morality to people even when no one's looking. These are the kinds of arguments put forward for God. All of them are pointers towards the existence of God rather than away from it. One way of looking at this question is to, in a sense, add up all the things that point towards God's existence and compare that pile with the things that count against God. As far as I can see, there is only one significant thing on the pile against God, and that is the problem of why there's evil and suffering in the world if a good and powerful God exists. That's a significant question, and we need to do a lot more talking about it. But it's only one item on the pile. Perhaps viewers can think of other things against God, but that seems to me to be the main complaint. There are, of course, no knockdown arguments against God's existence because you really can't prove a negative. However, you can have a go, and that's exactly what Dawkins does, Richard Dawkins in his book, The God Delusion. Dawkins is, in fact, willing to take on himself the burden of proof. It's quite brave. He spends chapter 3 of his book endeavouring to dismantle the famous arguments for God's existence. But in chapter 4, he offers his own argument for, quote, why there almost certainly is no God. His argument, if I can summarise it properly, is that for a complex world like ours to be created by a God, that God would have to be even more complex than the world he created. Now, if you accept that it's incredibly unlikely that this universe just came about by chance, as Dawkins does, then, says Dawkins, you have to accept that it's even more unlikely that a God who could create such a world could in fact be in existence. Now, it might take a while to digest that argument, but let me give you my response in 3 brief comments. Firstly, I don't think this is an argument that will worry any Jew, Muslim, or Christian. Dawkins is really conceiving of a kind of God that is not the kind taught by theistic religions. It seems to me that Dawkins' argument is only a problem if God is of the same substance as the universe he creates. The 3 major theistic religions teach that God is different to and separate from the universe, even though he can interact with it. On the converse, it seems to me that this argument may be a problem for pantheists, people who wish to say that God is within nature. Perhaps God could be the end point of nature, but he can't be the beginning of it, according to Dawkins' argument, because he just isn't complex enough yet. Well, thirdly and finally, for someone who is a good friend of Douglas Adams, the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, this argument from Dawkins really does sound to me like an attempt to make God disappear in a puff of logic. It doesn't give any weight, any room, any energy to the arguments offered in favour of God. It assumes they can all be explained away by gradual evolution. All the beauty, all the sense of meaning and purpose, all the hope, all the justice, all the loving. It's a very big call, and surely it isn't one that we should be too quick to accept. Perhaps the best way forward on this whole question of proof is to point the fingers not at other people, but at ourselves, at myself. We can ask ourselves the question, why do I believe what I believe? Do I have good enough reasons for it? Is my evidence strong enough? Is it worth believing? Let's do that rather than point scoring off each other, and let's see where it leads.